I'm here with Boris Johnson, the Mayor of London, one of the most recognisable figures in European politics.
And a proud former editor of Simon Nixon.
And a very influential figure in the UK political scene. Boris.
Simon, how are you?
Very good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Very good to see you indeed. So you're the mayor of one of the most thriving cities in one of the most dynamically growing economies in the world. House prices are up about 15% the last year. You must
that's the big issue.
You must be very proud.
Very proud, and that's the big issue for us, Simon, because we are having now the problems of success. London is a local asset that is globally desired. There are people around the world who want to come and buy homes in London, and it's of course fantastic for us because it helps us to build housing programs to get things started, but it also puts huge pressure on our market. And you rightly say prices have gone up very steeply. I don't myself foresee any very big property decline. I think the values are going to be very well supported by the demand, and we've got to build more homes for Londoners. I mean, we've got people growing up in London who have not got a hope of getting onto the property ladder in the way that 30 years ago or 20 years ago people of my generation were able to do. And that is a real change in our society. We've got to build more homes for them.
Yes, so I mean, inequality is one of the big themes of this conference. And
deservedly so.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. Inequality is only tolerable when people sense that they have opportunity. If inequality is going to widen in the way that it has over the last 20, 30 years in the Western economies, and particularly in America and in the UK, that will only be supported by the population if they feel that A, we're looking out for those who find it hard to make progress, and B, we're allowing talent to make progress and to get the housing that they need, to get the job opportunities that they deserve. And I think it's absolutely right, as the economy now starts to turn good, that we should focus on inequality.
Yeah, and the London housing obviously is a very particular issue for young people. I mean, do you ever find yourself saying to the government, the Prime Minister, George Osborne, members of your own party, come on, you're Conservatives, we don't just subsidise London house prices, you're making it worse for the young people. Do you ever...
what do you mean? We just let the market rip?
Well, no. The market subsidising mortgages for London house prices is surely...
Listen, housing. It's a very interesting point and a philosophical point, because I think people don't often understand this. A home in London cannot be conceived of as equivalent to a car or hi-fi or some other material possession. A house is a piece of London infrastructure. A home is a flat, it's a piece of London infrastructure. It will be used not just by you and your family, it will be used for generations to come. And we need to build tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands more. And government has got to take a leading role. We've got to put more public land in for development.
But should they subsidise that?
Yes. I mean, in terms of subsidised mortgages, but we already do that. We already have part-by-part rent schemes. The first step scheme that we've had in London, we've done about 56,000 people have benefited already from part-by-part rent schemes. You've got to help people onto the property ladder.
Okay.
Because as I was saying, there's been this massive change. London is now the most popular city on earth. Our official figures this year show that it was the most visited city for tourists. I just learned yesterday we've got. Last year when I came here, I said we were the 6th biggest French city on earth. Right. Today we are the 4th biggest French city on earth in London, and there are about between 300 and 400,000 French people in London, as against 19,000 British people in Paris.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's astonishing figures, and that shows the strength of global demand for London. It probably also shows that French people can speak English better than we can speak French, or something like that.
We're very progressive.
We're very progressive. But it also shows that talented people are coming to London. They're pushing up the domestic housing market, the prices. We need to sort that out by building hundreds of thousands more homes.
Yes. Well, so the Wall Street Journal has a very global readership, and a lot of people in business and finance are looking, in terms of investors. And
they won't go wrong.
And there's a number of things that that they, despite London's current success, that worry them. And one of the top ones is the question of Britain's membership of the EU. I mean, Britain's never going to leave the EU, is it really? Can you assure them of that?
I think it's vanishingly unlikely. On the other hand, I think it is right that we should try to get a better deal. Britain is one of the only countries that the population of Britain hasn't been given a chance to vote exclusively on the European issue since 1975. There's no reason at all why we shouldn't try to use a renegotiation, not just for the sake of Britain, but for the sake of the whole of the EU. I mean, you could not look at the French economy now, Simon, and say that it was going gangbusters as a result of the euro, could you? There are problems. There are structural problems. There are supply side problems. Some of them emanate from Brussels. Are there better ways of regulating? Should we be being more serious and more ruthless in pruning the great ontological explosion of the EU's bodies? Why do we need the European Court of Justice telling us what to do in home affairs, in borders?
Right. But I suppose the point that our readers, I suppose, want to know. I mean, you're in constant touch with lots of businesses. You've become a bit of a spokesman for the City of London. You've led trade delegations all over the world. But I mean, do you?
I think business.
You personally, presumably, would never vote to leave the EU. You would make the case for staying in the EU.
I would. I mean, let's be very clear. I'm in favour of reform, and I'm in favour of being very, very tough in these negotiations. So, you have to hold out the possibility that if it didn't go the way we wanted, then we could walk away. Now, as it happens, I don't think that is likely. I think people are going to want to do a deal. They're going to want to keep Britain in. Britain is a massive economy. There are huge mutual advantages.
You're not going to vote to take the Britain out of the EU.
Well, provided we get the right deal.
Right.
Provided we get the right deal.
You could see yourself voting.
I've got to leave that possibility open, but I'm absolutely convinced.
And what's your bottom line? What's the thing that that you have to?
I think you need to see some. Why do we need the common agricultural policy to work as it does at the moment? Why do we need the social chapter to work as it does at the moment? Why do we need EU jurisdiction?
So that's quite a big shopping list you've got there.
I'm keen to see change.
Okay.
I'm keen to see change, and I think that we will if we do it in what we need to I think what Britain needs to do is to be constructive and surely. If you look at the history of the European Union, Simon, who invented the blooming thing? Churchill makes a speech in 1942 where he calls for a united, or he talks about a United States of Europe. And this was an idea, and don't forget, when he went around America in the 1920s and 30s, he saw the single market in America. And he saw that there were no barriers to trade between the American states. And he thought, this is what we should have in Europe. You should create an entity where people could trade freely and move freely. And that was the fundamental idea that Churchill had. It was then taken on by Monet and De Gasperi and Spark and Schumann and all those guys in the late 40s, early 50s. And they imposed this supranational structure on it, which in so many ways now I think looks out of date. And we could improve it, we could reform it, but we've got to be positive. We've got to be positive about it.
Okay, there's another area I want to talk about, which worries a lot of people I talk to, and you must come across it as well, which is that London has been one of the great entrepôts of the world. It's been very open to immigrants and people from, and it's, as you mentioned, 300 to 400,000 Frenchmen French people in London.
Ressortissants.
So,
men and women, Français, Françaises.
But recently, recently businesses have been very alarmed by some of our, immigration rules as to whether they can get their people in. We've seen the Prime Minister talking very hostile language, and the tenor of political debate on it. What do you say to business people about? Is London still a friendly place to?
Yes, and it does come up from time to time. I think the thing that business people are most concerned about are visas, intercompany transfer, intra-company transfer, and yes, London has got to be a welcoming environment for talent. Always has been, always will be. I mean, the thing I always say is compare Athens and Sparta, right? In 5th century Greece, right? We never take your eye off Athens and Sparta. The two great military powers of 5th century Greece. One of them, Athens, welcomed the metics, welcomed the resident aliens, gave them the ability to be bankers, to be architects, to get involved in the life of the city. 50%. The population of Athens was resident aliens. Sparta kicked them all out every year. They kicked out the foreigners. Who left the world? Democracy, politics, philosophy, literature, history, the whole lot. Athens. What did Sparta leave? Nothing. I rest my case. You need to have an open society.
Yes. So do you ever say to I mean, are you concerned about some of the rhetoric in the UK debate and what effect it might have on business? Do you ever say to the Prime Minister, just why don't you cool it a bit?
I think the Prime Minister's doing a brilliant job, and I think there is a balance to be struck, which I think he gets right, which is to say Britain is a welcoming of talent, but you got to crack down on illegal immigration and not have a benefit system that acts as an unnecessary magnet. But you should definitely be open to investment and to people who want to make their lives in London.
Boris Johnson, thank you very much indeed.